Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Tristan Rallings, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Warrant Officer Colin Thacker. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families who love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you are able, please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of the more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private Francis Bede Commons. Francis Bede Commons was born in 1877 in Orange, New South Wales, the son of Thomas and Bridget Commons. Known as Frank, he attended St Stanislaus College in Bathurst, excelling at sport and his studies. On graduating, he undertook an apprenticeship with a solicitor, and in 1903 he was admitted as a solicitor in New South Wales. Shortly afterwards, he took up a practice in the town of Parkes, where he maintained his interest in sport, acting as an umpire in local cricket and football matches. In November 1908, Frank married Nora Burns at St Jarlath's Catholic Church in Parkes. The couple had 2 children, Kathleen in 1909 and John in 1913. In March 1916, Commons volunteered to enlist in the Australian Imperial Forces. After initial training in Australia, Commons embarked from Sydney on the transport ship Mashobra in September 1916. He arrived in early November in England, where he continued training. He sailed for France in December, joining the 53rd Australian Infantry Battalion. Commons continued his training in France, becoming acquainted with the newest British tactics for warfare on the Western Front. His unit was stationed in northern France near the Belgian border. The French winter of 1916 and 1917 was the coldest in memory, and the Australians struggled to remain healthy in the extreme conditions. In late January, Commons was admitted to hospital with dental problems and illness. He remained in hospital recovering until mid-March, when he was discharged and joined his unit. During March 1917, the 53rd Battalion spent time in the front lines near the village of Lanicourt in northern France. At this time, German forces had undertaken a strategic withdrawal to a strongly fortified position known as the Hindenburg Line. Australian forces, including the 53rd Battalion, were in the process of following up this withdrawal. Towards the middle of March, the unit occupied trenches that had previously been the German front line. On the afternoon of the 31st of March 1917, Commons and his unit were in a front-line trench when a shell fragment struck him in the head and killed him instantly. He was 40 years old. Commons was buried near where he fell, but at the end of the war, many smaller burial places were consolidated. His remains are now buried at Beaumetz Crossroads Cemetery in France, alongside more than 250 Commonwealth soldiers of the First World War. 2 of Commons' older brothers also served in the AIF. Private James Commons served with the 24th Battalion and was killed at Bullecourt about 1 month after Frank was killed. Sergeant Patrick Commons served with the Australian General Base Depot in France and returned to Australia in 1918. Private Francis Bede Commons is listed on the honour roll on my right, among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed beside the pool of reflection. But this is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Francis Bede Commons, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. lest we forget.
We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.